The autumn air in Portland, Oregon carried the scent of rain-soaked pavement and falling leaves. Sarah Mitchell sat on the weathered wooden bench at Laurelhurst Park. Her police uniform still crisp, despite the emotional weight pressing down on her shoulders. The park was quieter than usual for a Thursday afternoon, just a few joggers and dog walkers passing by, their breath visible in the cool October air. Sarah's hands trembled slightly as she held her phone, reading the same text message for the 100th time. "I'm sorry, Sarah. I can't do this anymore. I need to find myself. Please don't contact me. 3 years. 3 years of building a life together. Of Sunday morning pancakes and shared dreams of adopting a dog, of supporting each other through late shifts and family gatherings. Gone in a single text message." She pressed her palms against her eyes, trying to hold back the tears that had been threatening to spill since her shift started 6 hours ago. Officer Sarah Mitchell didn't cry. She was the one who comforted victims, who stood strong in crisis, who other officers looked up to for her composure. But right now, alone on this bench, she felt her carefully constructed walls beginning to crack. A tear escaped, then another, sliding down her cheeks as she stared at the ground. "Excuse me, sad police lady?" Sarah looked up, startled, to find a small girl standing in front of her. She couldn't have been more than 6 years old, with wild curly brown hair barely contained in 2 lopsided pigtails, wearing a purple jacket covered in hand-drawn butterflies. Her bright green eyes were filled with concern that seemed far too mature for such a young face. "Are you okay?" the little girl asked, tilting her head to one side. Sarah quickly wiped her eyes, forcing a smile. "I'm fine, sweetie. Just having a tough day." The girl frowned, clearly unconvinced. She looked around the park, then back at Sarah with the kind of determination only children possess when they've decided to fix something. "Don't cry, ma'am," she said firmly, reaching out to pat Sarah's hand with her small fingers. "I'll lend you my mommy. She always makes me feel better when I'm sad." Before Sarah could respond, the girl turned and called out, "Mama, there's a police officer here who needs help." Sarah's heart sank. The last thing she needed was to explain to a concerned parent that she was falling apart on a park bench during her lunch break. She stood quickly, ready to reassure whoever was coming that everything was fine, that their daughter was just being kind. That, "Emma, I told you not to run off like that. You scared me half to—" The woman stopped mid-sentence as she rounded the oak tree, her eyes landing on Sarah. For a moment, neither of them moved. The woman was younger than Sarah expected, probably in her early 30s. With long auburn hair pulled back in a messy bun. She wore paint-splattered jeans and an oversized gray sweater that looked like it had seen better days. But it was her eyes that caught Sarah's attention. Warm brown eyes that held a mixture of apology and understanding. "I'm so sorry," the woman said, hurrying over and placing a gentle hand on Emma's shoulder. "My daughter has a habit of adopting people who look like they need a friend." "I hope she wasn't bothering you." "She wasn't," Sarah said quickly, surprised by how steady her voice sounded. "She's very sweet." Emma beamed up at both of them. "See, Mama? I told you she needed you." She was crying. The woman's cheeks flushed pink. "Emma, honey, that's not— we can't just—" She took a breath and looked at Sarah with an apologetic smile. "I'm Rachel Morrison, and this is my daughter, Emma, who apparently has no concept of personal boundaries. I'm teaching her stranger danger, I swear," Rachel added quickly. "But she saw your uniform and decided police officers are automatically safe." Despite everything, Sarah found herself smiling, a real smile this time. "Officer Sarah Mitchell, and honestly, your daughter might be the best part of my day so far." Emma tugged on her mother's hand. "Can we invite her to have hot chocolate with us, Mama? Please? She's sad and you always say hot chocolate makes everything better." Rachel looked mortified. "Emma, Officer Mitchell is working. I'm sure she has important police business to—" "Actually," Sarah heard herself say, "I'm on my lunch break, and hot chocolate sounds really nice right now." If you're enjoying this story so far, make sure you subscribe to our channel. We share heartwarming stories like this one every week, and you won't want to miss what happens next between Sarah and Rachel. Rachel's surprise was evident, but she nodded slowly, a small smile playing at her lips. "There's a cafe just across the street, the Cozy Cup. They make the best hot chocolate in Portland, and they don't skimp on the marshmallows. The marshmallows are very important, Emma said seriously, slipping her small hand into Sarah's larger one as if they'd known each other for years. As they walked across the park toward the cafe, Sarah felt something shift inside her chest. It wasn't the heavy weight of heartbreak lifting, that would take time, but rather the emergence of something unexpected. A moment of lightness, a reminder that kindness still existed in the world, even on the worst days. The Cozy Cup was exactly what its name promised. A small corner cafe with mismatched furniture, local art on the walls, and the rich aroma of coffee and chocolate filling the air. They settled into a booth by the window, Emma insisting on sitting next to Sarah while Rachel slid into the opposite side. "So," Rachel said after they'd ordered, 3 hot chocolates and a slice of carrot cake that Emma promised to share. "Do you want to talk about what had you crying in the park? Or should we stick to safer topics like the weather?" Sarah was taken aback by the directness, but there was no judgment in Rachel's tone. Just an offering, a choice. "My girlfriend, ex-girlfriend I guess, broke up with me this morning," Sarah found herself saying, via text message, after 3 years. Rachel winced. "Ouch! That's brutal." "Language, Mama," Emma piped up, earning a gentle laugh from both women. "You're right, baby. That's very unkind," Rachel corrected, then looked back at Sarah. "I'm sorry. Breakups are hard enough without them being done so impersonally." "You sound like you speak from experience," Sarah said, noticing the absence of a ring on Rachel's finger, but also the slight shadow that crossed her face. "My husband died 2 years ago," Rachel said quietly, her hand instinctively moving to cover Emma's. "Car accident. So I understand grief, even if the circumstances are different. Loss is loss." Sarah felt her chest tighten. "I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have—" "No," Rachel interrupted gently. "It's okay. I'm at a place where I can talk about it now. It took a long time to get here, but I am. And honestly, your heartbreak is just as valid as my loss. Pain isn't a competition." Their hot chocolates arrived, topped with impressive mountains of whipped cream and marshmallows. Emma immediately began fishing out the marshmallows with her spoon, humming happily to herself. "Can I ask you something?" Sarah said after a moment. "Why did you agree to this? You don't know me. I could be anyone." Rachel smiled, tracing the rim of her mug with one finger. "Because Emma was right. You needed someone. And I remember what it felt like to sit alone with pain, thinking nobody understood. If I can offer a little kindness to someone else going through a hard time, why wouldn't I? Plus," she added with a wink, "you're a police officer. If you turned out to be a serial killer, you'd be really bad at your job." Sarah laughed, a genuine, surprised laugh that felt foreign after the morning she'd had. Fair point. They talked for the next hour, conversation flowing easily despite the unusual circumstances of their meeting. Sarah learned that Rachel was a freelance illustrator who worked mainly on children's books, that she and Emma lived in a small house just 3 blocks from the park, and that they came to this cafe every Thursday after Emma's half-day at kindergarten. Rachel learned that Sarah had been with the Portland Police Bureau for 8 years, that she specialized in community outreach, and that she'd moved to Portland from a small town in Washington specifically to be somewhere more accepting of who she was. "It's hard, you know," Sarah admitted, watching Emma color on the paper placemat with crayons the waitress had brought. "Being out in law enforcement, it's getting better, but there are still guys at the station who make comments, who think I'm trying to make some kind of statement just by existing. People fear what they don't understand," Rachel said softly. "Trust me. As a widow with a young daughter, I get my share of judgment too. Everyone has an opinion on how I should live my life, how I should date or not date, how I'm raising Emma. It's exhausting. How do you deal with it?" Sarah asked. Rachel glanced at her daughter, her expression softening. "I remember what matters. Emma matters. My art matters. The people who truly care about me matter. Everything else is just noise." Sarah's radio crackled to life, breaking the moment. Her lunch break was over. "I have to get back," she said reluctantly, standing and reaching for her wallet. "This one's on me," Rachel said quickly. "Consider it a thank you for being patient with Emma's enthusiastic adoption of you." "I invaded your Thursday tradition," Sarah protested. "You enhanced it," Rachel corrected. Same time next week? The question hung in the air between them, loaded with possibility. Sarah found herself nodding before she'd fully processed the invitation. Same time next week. As she walked back to her patrol car, Emma's small voice called out behind her, "Bye, Officer Sarah. Don't be sad anymore." Sarah turned and waved, catching Rachel's eye over Emma's head. Rachel smiled, a warm, genuine smile that made something flutter in Sarah's chest, something that felt dangerously like hope. 3 weeks passed, and Thursday became Sarah's favorite day of the week. Each week, like clockwork, she would finish her morning patrol, change out of her uniform into civilian clothes, and meet Rachel and Emma at the park. They'd walk to the cozy cup together, Emma chattering about her week at school while holding both their hands, swinging between them like a bridge. The routine was simple, comfortable, and exactly what Sarah needed as she slowly pieced her heart back together. "So let me get this straight," Rachel said during their 4th Thursday together, laughing as Emma ran to the cafe's small bookshelf to pick out a picture book. "You arrested someone for trying to steal a garden gnome? In my defense?" Sarah said, grinning over her hot chocolate. "It was a very expensive garden gnome. The owner had it custom made to look like her late husband, and the thief was the husband's brother, who thought he deserved it more." "Family drama at its finest." Rachel shook her head. "You can't make this stuff up. What about you?" Sarah leaned forward, genuinely curious. "What's the weirdest illustration request you've ever gotten?" Rachel's eyes lit up. They always did when she talked about her work. "Oh, that's easy. Last year, an author wanted me to illustrate a children's book about a philosophical potato who questioned the meaning of existence while being made into French fries." "You're joking." "I wish I was." The potato's name was Socratator. Sarah snorted into her drink, causing Rachel to laugh harder. "Did you do it?" "Of course I did. It actually won an award for Most Creative Children's Book. Kids loved it. Parents were deeply confused." These moments, the easy laughter, the comfortable silences, the way Rachel's eyes crinkled when she smiled, had become precious to Sarah. She found herself thinking about Thursday mornings while on patrol, planning stories to share, wondering what Rachel and Emma would be up to. It wasn't until the 5th Thursday that Sarah realized she was falling for Rachel Morrison. They were walking through Laurelhurst Park after hot chocolate, Emma running ahead to chase fallen leaves. The November air was crisp, carrying the promise of the coming winter. Rachel had brought a sketchbook and was pointing out different trees to Emma, explaining how their bare branches would look beautiful in a drawing. "You're really good with her," Sarah observed, watching Rachel kneel down to Emma's level to show her something in the sketchbook. "She's my whole world," Rachel said simply, standing and brushing dirt off her jeans. "After David died, there were days when I didn't think I could get out of bed. But Emma needed me. She kept me going when nothing else could." "Do you mind if I ask what happened?" Sarah asked gently. "You don't have to talk about it if—" "No, it's okay," Rachel interrupted, her voice steady. "It helps to talk about him sometimes. Everyone gets so uncomfortable when I mention David, like saying his name will break me, but remembering him, sharing his story, that's how I keep him alive for Emma." They sat on their bench. Sarah had started thinking of it as theirs, while Emma played nearby. "David was a teacher," Rachel began. "3rd grade. He loved his job, loved his students. That night he was driving home from a parent-teacher conference. It was raining. A drunk driver ran a red light and—" She paused, taking a breath. "The doctors said he didn't suffer, that it was instant. I don't know if that's true or if they just tell people that, but I choose to believe it." Sarah reached over and gently took Rachel's hand. Rachel didn't pull away. Emma was only 4. She remembers him. But those memories are fading. Sometimes she asks me questions about him, and I can see her trying so hard to hold on to pieces of a person who's becoming more concept than memory. Rachel's voice caught slightly. "That's the hardest part, watching her forget." "She won't forget," Sarah said firmly. "Not completely. And she has you to keep those stories alive. That's a gift, Rachel." Rachel turned to look at her, their faces closer than Sarah had realized. "When did you become so wise, Officer Mitchell?" "I think around the time a 6-year-old girl told me she'd lend me her mother," Sarah replied softly. The moment stretched between them, charged with something Sarah couldn't quite name. Rachel's eyes dropped to Sarah's lips for just a second before she pulled back, standing quickly. "Emma, honey, we should get going. I have a deadline tonight." The spell was broken, but Sarah could still feel the ghost of Rachel's hand in hers. That night, Sarah lay in bed in her small apartment, staring at the ceiling. Her phone sat on the nightstand, silent. Her ex-girlfriend hadn't contacted her since that initial text, and Sarah was surprised to realize she didn't care anymore. The sharp pain of betrayal had dulled to a distant ache, overshadowed by something new and terrifying and wonderful. She was developing feelings for Rachel Morrison. The realization should have scared her. It had only been 5 weeks since her breakup, and Rachel was straight, wasn't she? She'd been married to a man, had a child with him, still spoke about him with love in her voice. But then Sarah remembered the way Rachel had looked at her today, the way their conversations flowed effortlessly, the way Rachel always seemed to understand exactly what Sarah needed, whether it was laughter or comfortable silence or gentle honesty. Sarah picked up her phone and typed out a message. "Thank you for today. For every Thursday. You and Emma have helped me more than you know." The response came quickly. "You've helped us too. See you next week, Officer Mitchell. Sweet dreams." Sarah fell asleep smiling. The next Thursday brought rain, heavy, persistent Oregon rain that turned the streets into rivers and made everyone run for cover. Sarah almost canceled, assuming Rachel would want to stay home with Emma. But at 12:30, her phone buzzed with a message. "We're here. Emma refuses to miss Thursday. Bring an umbrella." Sarah grabbed her jacket and headed to the park, finding Rachel and Emma huddled under a large umbrella by their bench. Emma was wearing bright yellow rain boots and jumping enthusiastically in every puddle she could find. "You're both insane," Sarah called out, laughing as she jogged over. "Probably," Rachel agreed cheerfully. "But Emma has been talking about today all week." She was not about to let a little rain stop her. "A little rain? Rachel, it's practically a monsoon." "Then we better run to the cafe before we all float away. Come on." They raced across the park, Emma shrieking with delight, all 3 of them soaked by the time they stumbled into the cozy cup. The warmth of the cafe embraced them immediately, along with the concerned look of the barista, Marcus, who'd gotten to know them over the past weeks. "Rough day to be out," he commented, already preparing their usual orders. "Character building," Rachel replied, wringing out her hair. "Right, Emma?" "Right, Mama. Officer Sarah, did you see how high I jumped in that puddle?" "I did. Very impressive. You got about 3 feet of air." As they settled into their booth, dripping but happy, Sarah realized this had become more than just a weekly meeting. This was family. Not in the traditional sense, but in the way that mattered. People who showed up for each other, who found joy in simple moments, who chose to be together even when it would be easier to stay home. "I have something to tell you," Rachel said once Emma was engrossed in her hot chocolate. She looked nervous, her fingers drumming against the table. "I've been putting this off, but I think you should know." Sarah's heart sank. Here it comes, she thought. The gentle letdown. The "you're great but" speech. "I'm bisexual," Rachel said quickly, the words tumbling out in a rush. "I was married to David, and I loved him with everything I had. But that doesn't change the fact that I've always been attracted to women too. I wanted you to know, because I feel like we're becoming real friends, and I don't want there to be any secrets between us." Relief flooded through Sarah, followed immediately by a dangerous spark of hope. "Thank you for telling me." "That must have been hard. The hardest part is that I never got to tell David," Rachel admitted. "I figured it out years before I met him, but I thought because I loved him, because I wanted to marry him, it didn't matter. And it didn't. Not really. But after he died, I had all this guilt about keeping a part of myself hidden, even though I know he would have accepted me completely." "You can't blame yourself for that," Sarah said gently. "Sexuality is complicated. There's no timeline for when or how or if you share that part of yourself." Rachel smiled weakly, spoken like someone who's been there. "Coming out is different for everyone. I came out when I was 17 and it cost me my relationship with my parents. They still barely speak to me. But I don't regret it because living authentically was more important than living comfortably in a lie. Sarah paused. But that was my journey. Yours is different. And there's no wrong way to do it. Mama, can I have another marshmallow? Emma interrupted, oblivious to the weight of the conversation happening above her head. Of course, baby. Rachel fished a marshmallow from her own drink and dropped it into Emma's cup. As the afternoon wore on, Sarah felt the dynamic between them shift. Not uncomfortably, but significantly. Rachel's revelation had opened a door neither of them had been willing to acknowledge before. When it was time to leave, they stood outside the cafe under Sarah's umbrella, Rachel holding Emma against her side. Same time next week? Rachel asked. But there was a question beneath the question. Same time next week, Sarah confirmed. Rain or shine? Rachel hesitated, then leaned in and pressed a quick kiss to Sarah's cheek. Thank you, for listening, for understanding. Before Sarah could respond, Rachel was walking away, Emma waving enthusiastically over her shoulder. Sarah touched her cheek where Rachel's lips had been, feeling the warmth despite the cold rain. Everything was about to change. If you're invested in Sarah and Rachel's story, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We've got so much more to share, and you'll want to be here for every beautiful moment of this journey. December arrived with its usual Portland mix of rain and rare, precious sunshine. The city transformed with holiday decorations, twinkling lights strung across streets, and the scent of pine and cinnamon everywhere. Sarah found herself looking forward to Thursdays with an intensity that both thrilled and terrified her. The Thursday after Rachel's revelation, they met at the park as usual, but there was a new awareness between them. Glances that lasted a beat too long, hands that brushed during conversation, silences that felt charged with possibility. Emma's school is having a winter festival next Saturday, Rachel mentioned as they walked to the cafe. There'll be hot cider, crafts, caroling, the whole festive shebang. Would you want to come? She paused, searching for the right word. As my friend? Sarah's heart did a complicated flip. I'd love to. Yes, Emma cheered, bouncing on her toes. Can Officer Sarah help us make snowflakes, Mama? Please? If Officer Sarah wants to be covered in glitter and construction paper, then absolutely. It's like you know me, Sarah teased. The winter festival was everything Rachel had promised. The elementary school gym was packed with families, children running between craft stations while parents tried to keep up. Sarah arrived in jeans and a burgundy sweater, feeling nervous in a way she hadn't since high school. She spotted Rachel immediately. She was standing near the cider table, wearing a dark green dress that brought out the auburn in her hair, laughing at something another parent was saying. When Rachel saw Sarah, her whole face lit up. You came! Rachel exclaimed, moving through the crowd to greet her. I was worried you might get called in to work. I requested the day off, Sarah admitted. This seemed important. It is, Rachel said softly, her hand finding Sarah's arm briefly before Emma crashed into both of them. Officer Sarah, come see the snowflakes I made. I made 7. The next 2 hours passed in a blur of construction paper, glue sticks, and children's laughter. Sarah found herself relaxing into the chaos, helping Emma and her classmates create increasingly elaborate paper snowflakes. Rachel worked at the station next to her, occasionally stealing glances that made Sarah's stomach flutter. You're good with kids, Rachel observed as they watched Emma show off her creations to another little girl. I like kids. They're honest. No hidden agendas. Sarah paused. My ex and I used to talk about adopting. It was one of the things we were planning for. Do you still want that? Children, I mean. Yeah, Sarah said without hesitation. Someday, with the right person. Their eyes met, and Sarah saw something flicker across Rachel's face. Hope, maybe, or fear, or some combination of both. Mama! Officer Sarah, they're starting the caroling outside. The crowd moved to the playground, where someone had set up a makeshift stage. Parents and children gathered around, voices rising in familiar holiday songs. Emma insisted on standing between Sarah and Rachel, holding both their hands. It was during silent night, watching snowflakes begin to fall under the glow of string lights, that Sarah felt Rachel's fingers intertwine with hers. Not just the casual hand-holding they'd done before, but something deliberate, intentional. Sarah looked over at Rachel, whose eyes were already on her. In that moment, with Emma singing off-key between them and snow falling softly around them, Sarah knew with absolute certainty that she was in love with Rachel Morrison. The realization should have terrified her. Instead, it felt like coming home. After the festival, Sarah walked Rachel and Emma back to their house, a charming craftsman-style home with a blue door and a small garden that Rachel apologized for neglecting. "Come in for tea?" Rachel asked as she unlocked the door. "Unless you have somewhere to be?" "Nowhere I'd rather be," Sarah replied honestly. The inside of Rachel's home was exactly what Sarah had imagined. Warm and lived in, with Emma's artwork covering the refrigerator and Rachel's illustrations pinned to a corkboard in the kitchen. There were photos everywhere, most of them featuring Emma at various ages, but several included a smiling man with kind eyes, who Sarah recognized as David. "That's Daddy," Emma announced, pointing to a photo on the mantel. "Mama says he's watching us from heaven." Sarah looked at Rachel, who nodded slightly. "Do you want to tell Officer Sarah about your daddy?" Emma climbed onto the couch next to Sarah, pulling a photo album from the coffee table. "He was really funny. Mama says I laugh like him, and he liked to paint, but not as good as Mama. See?" She pointed to a picture of David holding a very abstract painting. "He made this for my 4th birthday. It's supposed to be a unicorn." "I can see that," Sarah said seriously, though the painting looked more like a colorful blob. "Liar," Rachel laughed from the kitchen, bringing in 3 mugs, 2 of tea and 1 of milk for Emma. David's artistic talents were enthusiastic. They spent the evening looking through photos, Rachel sharing stories about David with an ease that spoke of healing. She didn't shy away from his memory or act like his existence was a betrayal to whatever was developing between her and Sarah. Instead, she wove him into the conversation naturally, keeping him alive for Emma, while also making space for new possibilities. It was close to Emma's bedtime when Sarah finally stood to leave. "I'll walk you out," Rachel said, instructing Emma to get ready for bed. They stood on the front porch, the cold December air swirling around them. Christmas lights from neighboring houses cast soft colors across Rachel's face. "Thank you for today," Rachel said. "For coming, for being so good with Emma, for everything. Thank you for inviting me, for letting me be part of this." Rachel stepped closer, close enough that Sarah could smell her perfume, something floral and warm. "I need to be honest with you about something." Sarah's heart hammered. "Okay. I think I'm developing feelings for you. Real feelings. And I don't know what to do about it because it's only been 2 years since David died. And Emma is just starting to feel stable again. And you just got out of a serious relationship and the timing is terrible, and I'm probably crazy for even saying this, but..." Sarah gently placed her finger on Rachel's lips, silencing her rambling. "I have feelings for you too. Strong feelings. And you're right, the timing is complicated. But I don't think love operates on convenient schedules." "Love?" Rachel's voice was barely a whisper. Sarah's eyes widened. She hadn't meant to say that word, not yet. Because I think I might be falling in love with you too," Rachel finished, her own eyes wide with the admission, "which is terrifying and wonderful and completely unexpected." They stood there, breathing the same air, the space between them charged with 2 months of growing connection and feeling. "I want to kiss you," Sarah said softly, "but only if you're ready. We can take this as slow as you need." Rachel's answer was to close the distance between them, her lips meeting Sarah's in a kiss that was gentle, tentative, and absolutely perfect. It lasted only a few seconds before they pulled apart, both slightly breathless. "Mama? Where are you?" Emma's voice called from inside. Rachel laughed, pressing her forehead briefly against Sarah's. "Reality calls. Go," Sarah said. "I'll see you Thursday?" "Thursday," Rachel confirmed. "And maybe we could do something this weekend? Just the 2 of us? If you want." "I want," Sarah said immediately. "Text me?" "I will." Sarah walked to her car feeling like she was floating. She sat in the driver's seat for a moment, touching her lips where Rachel had kissed her, letting the reality of what had just happened sink in. Her phone buzzed. Emma wants to know if you're officially her friend forever now. I may have explained that you're Mama's special friend. She's very excited. So am I. Sarah typed back, "Tell Emma absolutely forever. And I'm excited too. More than I can say." As she drove home through the quiet Portland streets, Sarah felt something she hadn't felt in months. Pure, uncomplicated joy. The week between their first kiss and their first official date felt eternal. Sarah and Rachel texted constantly. Good morning messages, random observations about their days, photos Emma insisted on sending. Mostly of her cat, Mr. Whiskers, in various sleeping positions. "She's very insistent that you need to know what Mr. Whiskers is doing at all times," Rachel texted with a laughing emoji. "Please continue the Mr. Whiskers updates. They're the highlight of my day," Sarah replied. They decided on dinner at a quiet Italian restaurant in the Pearl District, away from their usual haunts where they might run into people they knew. Not because they were hiding, but because they wanted this first date to be just about them. No distractions, no questions, just two people getting to know each other in a new context. Sarah picked Rachel up on Saturday evening, her palms sweaty despite the December cold. Rachel answered the door in a navy blue dress that made Sarah's breath catch. "You look beautiful," Sarah managed. "So do you," Rachel replied, taking in Sarah's gray slacks and burgundy blouse. "Though I've gotten very used to seeing you in your uniform. I clean up okay when I try." Emma appeared behind Rachel, holding Mr. Whiskers. "Have fun on your date. Don't stay out too late. And Mama, remember your manners." Both women laughed as Rachel kissed her daughter's head. "I'll be on my best behavior. Grandma will be here in 10 minutes, okay? Be good for her." The drive to the restaurant was filled with easy conversation, nerves gradually settling into the comfortable dynamic they'd built over the past months. But there was also an undercurrent of awareness. This was different from their Thursday meetings. This was a date. A beginning of something they were choosing to explore together. The restaurant was perfect, intimate without being overly romantic. With soft lighting and quiet Italian music playing in the background, they were seated at a corner table, and Sarah found herself grateful for the privacy. "I have to admit," Rachel said after they'd ordered, "I haven't been on a date since before Emma was born. I might be rusty at this." "Me too." "Well, not that long, but it's been a while." Sarah fiddled with her napkin. "I keep wanting to ask you how Emma's week was, which feels very domestic for a first date." Emma's week was excellent. She learned about penguins and made a new friend named Marcus, who shares his crackers with her at snack time. Rachel paused. "Is this weird? Dating as a package deal? I know not everyone wants to—" "Rachel," Sarah interrupted gently. "Emma isn't a deal breaker. She's part of what makes you who you are. And honestly, I adore her. She was the one who brought us together." Rachel's shoulders relaxed. "I needed to hear that. My sister keeps telling me I need to date, but then she follows it up with advice about not introducing Emma to anyone unless it's serious. And I'm like, how am I supposed to know if it's serious without Emma meeting them? She's my barometer for whether someone is good for us. What's her verdict on me? She told me yesterday that you should marry us so you can live in our house, and we can have hot chocolate every day, not just Thursdays." Sarah nearly choked on her water. "That's direct." 6-year-olds usually are, Rachel smiled. "Don't worry. I told her that grown-ups need to be friends for a while before they think about marriage. But between you and me, I think she's already planning the wedding in her head. Last night she asked if you like butterflies because that should be the theme." "I love butterflies," Sarah said seriously. "Very important information for future reference." They talked through dinner about everything and nothing. Rachel's latest illustration project, a series of books about brave girls throughout history. Sarah's most interesting cases, within the bounds of what she could share. Their childhoods, their dreams, their fears. "Can I ask you something?" Rachel said over dessert. "About your family? You mentioned your parents don't speak to you much." Sarah took a breath. She'd known this conversation would come eventually. "When I came out at 17, my parents gave me an ultimatum. Deny who I was and continue living at home, or leave. I left. I've seen them maybe 5 times in the past 13 years. always at extended family events where they can't avoid me entirely. They send birthday cards with just their signatures. That's the extent of our relationship. Sarah, that's awful. I'm so sorry. It was hard for a long time, but I've built my own family, friends who accept me completely, colleagues who have my back. And now, she gestured between them, this. Whatever this is becoming, do you ever wish you could have both? Your authentic self and your parents' acceptance? Every day, Sarah admitted. But I learned early on that I can't control other people's reactions. I can only control my own choices. And I choose to be myself, even if it costs me. Rachel reached across the table, taking Sarah's hand. Their loss. Truly. After dinner, they walked along the waterfront, the Willamette River reflecting the city lights. It was cold enough to see their breath, and Sarah offered Rachel her jacket, which Rachel declined, instead moving closer so their arms touched as they walked. I want to be transparent with you about something, Rachel said after a moment. Dating again feels like betrayal sometimes, not to you. You're wonderful. But to David. Like I'm somehow dishonoring his memory by being happy with someone else. Do you think that's what he would want? For you to be alone forever? No. God, no. David would be furious with me if I put my life on hold for him. He made me promise, actually, in the hospital before he went into surgery. He made me promise that if anything happened to him, I would live fully, that I would find happiness again. Rachel's voice cracked slightly. I just didn't think happiness would look like this. Would feel like this. Like what? Like coming home, Rachel whispered. Like finding something I didn't know I was missing. Sarah stopped walking, turning to face Rachel fully. I don't want to replace David. That's not what this is. But I do want to be part of your future if you'll let me. I want to build something new with you, something that honors where you've been while also looking forward to where we could go. That's exactly what I want too, Rachel said, her eyes shining with unshed tears. I want Thursdays and weekends and all the days in between. I want Emma to have more than just memories of love in her life. I want her to see what it looks like when two people choose each other. I want you, Sarah, fully. If you're willing to take on a widow and her precocious 6-year-old daughter. I'm willing, Sarah said without hesitation. More than willing. I'm all in, Rachel. Completely. They kissed again. There on the waterfront with the city lights sparkling around them, and the sound of the river providing a gentle soundtrack. This kiss was different from their first. Less tentative, more certain. A promise of what they were building together. When they finally pulled apart, Rachel laughed softly. Emma is going to be impossible when I tell her about this. Tell her what? That we're officially dating? That her cunning plan to lend you out actually worked? All of the above. She's going to take full credit for this relationship, you know? She should, Sarah agreed. We wouldn't be here without her. They stayed out talking until past midnight, reluctant to let the evening end. When Sarah finally drove Rachel home, they sat in the car outside Rachel's house for another 20 minutes, stealing kisses and making plans for the week ahead. Same time Thursday? Rachel asked, echoing their usual phrase. Every Thursday, Sarah promised. And Saturdays. And any other day you'll have me. That's a lot of days, Officer Mitchell. Not nearly enough, Sarah replied, kissing her once more before Rachel reluctantly got out of the car. Sarah waited until Rachel was safely inside before driving away, her heart so full it felt like it might burst. She pulled out her phone at the first red light and typed a message. Thank you for tonight, for everything. Sweet dreams, beautiful. The response came before she'd even put her phone down. Sweet dreams, Officer Mitchell. Emma says Mr. Whiskers approves of you. High praise indeed. Sarah laughed, tucking her phone away and driving home with a smile that didn't fade for the rest of the night. We hope you're loving Sarah and Rachel's journey as much as we loved sharing it. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss the final chapter. Trust us. You'll want to see how this beautiful story unfolds. 3 months into their relationship, Sarah had never been happier. She'd seamlessly integrated into Rachel and Emma's life, showing up for school pickups when her shift allowed, joining them for weekend pancake breakfasts, reading Emma bedtime stories in silly voices that made the little girl giggle uncontrollably. She'd even won over Mr. Whiskers, who now greeted her at the door with demanding meows for attention. But they'd also been careful, perhaps too careful. While Emma knew Sarah was Mama's special friend, they hadn't explicitly discussed what that meant or what the future might hold. Sarah stayed in her own apartment, maintained her own space, even though she spent most of her free time at Rachel's house. It was Rachel who finally brought up the conversation they'd both been avoiding. It was a Thursday in late February, unseasonably warm for Portland. They sat on their bench in Laurelhurst Park, the same bench where everything had started 5 months ago, while Emma played on the nearby swings. "I've been thinking," Rachel began, her fingers intertwined with Sarah's, "about us, about what we're doing." Sarah's stomach clenched. "Okay. I don't want to keep things ambiguous with Emma anymore. She's smart. She knows we're more than friends, and I think she deserves honesty about what's happening in her life." "I agree," Sarah said carefully. "What are you proposing?" "I want to tell her that you're my girlfriend, that we love each other, that we're building a life together." Rachel paused. "And I want to ask you to move in with us." Sarah's heart stopped. "Move in?" "I know it's fast. We've only been officially dating for 3 months. But honestly, Sarah, you're already part of our lives. You have a toothbrush at my house. Half your clothes are in my closet. Emma asks for you every morning when she wakes up. Why are we pretending you don't belong with us?" "I want to," Sarah said immediately. "God, Rachel, I want nothing more than to come home to you and Emma every night. But are you sure? This is a big step, especially for Emma. I don't want to disrupt her stability." "You wouldn't be disrupting it. You'd be adding to it. Emma feels more stable now than she has since David died. You know why? Because you've shown her that it's possible to love more than one person. That adding you to our family doesn't diminish our love for David. You've been so respectful of his memory, including him in conversations, looking at photos with Emma, never trying to replace him. You've given her space to grieve, while also showing her what joy can look like again." Sarah felt tears prick her eyes. "He was important to her, to both of you. I would never try to erase that, I know. That's why I love you." Rachel squeezed her hand. "So what do you say? Want to make this official? Want to be part of Team Morrison full-time?" "Yes," Sarah said, laughing through her tears. "Absolutely yes." They sealed it with a kiss, Emma's delighted shriek interrupting them moments later. "Mama! Officer Sarah! Look how high I can swing!" "We see you, baby," Rachel called back, then turned to Sarah with a grin. "Ready to tell her?" "Ready." They called Emma over, and she bounded up to them, breathless and pink-cheeked from playing. "Guess what, sweetheart?" Rachel began. "Officer Sarah and I want to talk to you about something important." Emma's eyes went wide. "Are you getting married?" Both women laughed. "Not yet," Rachel said. "But we do want you to know that Sarah is my girlfriend. That means we love each other in a special way, like how Daddy and I loved each other." Emma processed this for approximately 3 seconds before launching herself at Sarah. "I knew it. I told Katie at school that you were Mama's girlfriend and she said I was making it up, but I knew it." Sarah caught her, holding the little girl close. "How did you know?" "Because you look at Mama the way Daddy used to. Like she's the most beautiful person in the whole world." Emma pulled back, suddenly serious. "Do you love us?" "I love you both very much," Sarah said honestly. "Your Mama makes me happier than I've ever been. And you're one of the bravest, kindest, most wonderful kids I've ever met. Do you love us enough to live with us? Because Mama says your apartment is too small, and you should just move into our house." Rachel had the grace to look sheepish. "I may have mentioned that once or twice." "What do you think about that, Emma?" Sarah asked. "About me living with you and your Mama?" Emma's face split into the biggest smile Sarah had ever seen. "I think you should have your own drawer for your socks. And we can share the bathroom, but you have to knock first. And maybe we can get a dog because Mama always says no, but maybe if there's 2 of us asking, she'll say yes." "Absolutely not," Rachel interjected. "Mr. Whiskers would have a nervous breakdown." "We'll work on her," Emma whispered conspiratorially to Sarah. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of change. Sarah gave notice on her apartment, packed up her belongings, and slowly integrated her life into Rachel and Emma's home. They painted what had been David's office, Rachel had been using it for storage, turning it into a shared space where Sarah could keep her police gear and Rachel could have a proper art studio. The process wasn't without its challenges. There were moments when Rachel would find one of David's old shirts and break down crying. Times when Emma would have nightmares and wake up calling for her daddy. Instances when Sarah felt like an intruder in memories that belonged to a family she hadn't been part of. But they worked through it together. They talked openly about feelings, about grief, about the complexity of building new love while honoring old loss. Rachel started therapy again, processing her guilt about moving on. Sarah joined a support group for LGBTQ+ officers, finding community and advice from others who'd navigated similar family structures. And slowly, day by day, they became a family. Sarah was there for Emma's first loose tooth, for Rachel's gallery showing of her latest illustrations, for quiet Sunday mornings when they made pancakes together and Mr. Whiskers wove between their legs hoping for scraps. She was also there for the hard days, when Emma came home from school crying because a classmate had said it was weird to have two moms, when Rachel had a panic attack on what would have been her 10th wedding anniversary with David, when Sarah's parents sent a Christmas card addressed only to her with a note that said they were praying for her to find the right path. Through it all, they had each other. They had their Thursday traditions, now expanded to include Emma's input on where they went and what they did. They had weekend adventures to the coast, movie nights where Emma always fell asleep before the movie ended, and bedtime routines that involved elaborate stories and at least 3 glasses of water. 6 months after moving in, Sarah found herself back at Laurelhurst Park with Rachel, their bench calling to them on a perfect June evening. Emma was at a sleepover with her friend Katie, giving them a rare night alone. "Do you remember the first time we sat here?" Sarah asked, pulling Rachel close. "How could I forget? You were crying, heartbroken, completely lost, and Emma decided you needed us." "She was right," Sarah said softly. "I did need you, both of you. I just didn't know it yet." Rachel turned in Sarah's arms, her face serious. "I need to tell you something." Sarah's heart rate picked up. "Okay." "I'm ready," Rachel said simply. "Ready for what?" "For forever. For making this permanent. For giving Emma the family she deserves, and the one we deserve too." Rachel reached into her pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. "Sarah Mitchell, you came into our lives when we needed you most, and you stayed even when things got complicated. You've loved us through grief and joy, through Emma's terrible 2s that somehow extended into her 6s, through my panic attacks and your family drama and every challenge in between. You make me laugh, you make me feel safe, and you make me believe in second chances." Sarah's eyes filled with tears as Rachel opened the box, revealing a simple silver band. "Will you marry me? Will you officially become Emma's other mom? Will you stay on this bench with me, metaphorically speaking, for the rest of our lives?" "Yes," Sarah managed through her tears. "Yes, absolutely yes." They kissed as the sun set over Portland. The same bench that had witnessed their first meeting now, witnessing their promise of forever. When they finally pulled apart, both laughing and crying, Sarah noticed something carved into the wood of the bench that hadn't been there before. "Did you do this?" she asked, running her fingers over the freshly carved words. Where Sarah and Rachel's story began. "Emma and I may have come here with a pocket knife last week," Rachel admitted. She wanted to make it official. Sarah laughed, imagining the two of them sneaking to the park, Emma insisting on commemorating the spot where her plan to lend her mama had worked out so perfectly. They stayed at the park until the stars came out, making plans for their future, a small wedding in the fall, maybe adopting another child in a few years, definitely not getting a dog, much to Emma's eventual disappointment, possibly moving to a bigger house with a real art studio for Rachel, but mostly, they just sat together, grateful for a 6-year-old's wisdom, for Thursday traditions, for the way love can find you when you least expect it. Sarah's phone buzzed with a text from Emma. "Did she say yes? Did you say yes? Can I be the flower girl? Katie wants to know if there will be cake." Both women laughed, and Sarah typed back, "She said yes, I said yes. You can definitely be the flower girl, and there will absolutely be cake." The response was immediate. Best day ever. Also, Mr. Whiskers wants to be the ring bearer. Absolutely not, Rachel said, reading over Sarah's shoulder. We'll negotiate, Sarah replied, kissing her fiancé's temple. As they walked home hand in hand, Sarah thought about the journey that had brought them here, from heartbreak to hope, from loneliness to love, from a chance meeting at a park bench to a lifetime commitment. She thought about Emma's innocent offer that October day. Don't cry, ma'am. I'll lend you my mommy. That little girl had given Sarah more than just a borrowed shoulder to cry on. She'd given her a family, a future, and a love story that began with the simple kindness of a child who saw someone in pain and decided to help. Sometimes the best things in life come from the most unexpected places. Sometimes they come from a 6-year-old with wild curly hair and a heart big enough to share her mama with a stranger who needed them both. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, those borrowed moments turn into forever. Thank you so much for joining us on Sarah, Rachel, and Emma's journey. If this story touched your heart, please subscribe to our channel and share it with someone who needs to hear that love can find you in the most unexpected ways. Drop a comment and let us know what you thought. We love hearing from you. And remember, sometimes the best things in life start with a simple act of kindness on a park bench. Until next time, keep believing in love, keep showing kindness, and keep finding beauty in the unexpected moments. We'll see you in the next story.